Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at some planned economy changes which have been posted today by Stoner, the community manager. And if you remember last time we had some research in economy changes, they talked about the idea that we were going to get a massive reduction in them when it came to aviation. And this seems to be what is happening with all of the changes here. The main thing that is happening is a massive reduction in SL cost and also research costs of rank 6 and even rank 7 vehicles when it comes to ground and aviation, apart from the SL costs of ground going up a little bit in rank 7 mainly. But overall, the major thing is the rank 6 of aviation now becoming on par with the stuff that we see in ground. About a year or two ago, I believe it was about 2 years ago at this point, we had a massive reduction in rank 6 vehicles from the ground point of view when rank 7 ground was introduced, and a few months later they went down. It seems the same thing is happening with aviation, which is really nice to see. They're also doing some research tree changes, and also they're doing a few other changes when it comes to the RP and also SL gain from wins and losses in battle. We'll cover it all. There is a lot of stuff going on, so let's get into it. So when it comes to changes in the aircraft research tree, they're making a ton of them. The main changes are grouping of planes, but they're also moving a few planes around and also moving some ranks of stuff. So we'll go through it by each nation. The first one is the USA, the F-82E, which is of course the twin Mustang. They've moved to the position after the P-38L5LO. So what they're doing is they're moving it across to the left from more of a center position. This is probably just to make the lines a little bit more streamlined and basically make them a little bit more equal compared to what we saw before. They're also grouping the F4U1C and F4U4. When it comes to grouping vehicles, this can only be seen as a positive because once a vehicle is grouped, it means you don't have to research the next one in order to get through the tech tree. Technically, the best thing to do when, if from a community point of view or from a player point of view, would be the whole tree basically being grouped when it comes to a specific variant of different vehicles. And with the US changes, that seems to kind of be happening. So the Bearcats are going to be grouped, the A2D and AD4 are also going to be grouped, and the B-17E and B-17EL are going to be grouped as well. So this gives the onus on the individual to decide whether they want to research these things instead of going past them or instead of being forced to, which was what it was before. This is an overall positive for the American tech tree. The HE112V5 is getting grouped with the HE112A-0 and the HE112B-0, meaning that it'll be easier to grind through that area of the tech tree. The HE100D1 is being moved to rank 1, so this is a slight negative because it's obviously not going to be very good now that you can't research rank 3 with it, which hurts, but at the same time, you know, it's still a very good vehicle. It'll still be useful for rank 1 and 2. The CL-13A Mark 5 and CL-13B Mark 6 are going to be grouped. This is a positive. They are also grouping the JU-87B2 and R2. Once again, very positive. And the JU-87 G1 and G2 is being moved to rank 1. This is because of the recent BR changes and the fact that the G1 and the G2 aren't very good vehicles. They keep going down in BR. They've also switched places of the HE111 H6 and the Focke-Wulf 200 C1. This is because of once again BR changes from previous times, and now the C1, the Condor, is actually a lower BR than the H6. Generally, it seems when it comes to the research trees, Guardian want to make it so the trees go up in order of BR, or at least close to, and this would be one of those changes indicating that. For the USSR, they've switched places of the Yak-9T and Yak-9K. I don't really understand why this is the case. Both vehicles are the same BR in arcade and realistic. The only thing I can think about this is them seeing the 9T to be better than the 9K, which it is, so therefore they would switch them around. They've grouped the Yak-9U and Yak-9P. This is obviously positive, as we talked about before. They've also grouped the MiG-21 SMT and MiG-21 BIS. This is very much a surprise since they're pretty high-ranking vehicles. Normally you don't see these vehicles grouped often, like the F-104s, for example, for the Americans. They haven't been grouped, but the SMT and the BIS have, which shows, at least for the USSR, maybe they're trying to get more people into the MiG-23, or maybe there's more stuff to come when it comes to that line in the tech tree. They've also added the Tu-2S to the group of the Tu-2S 44 and 59, making it so grinding through that is easier, so once again, another positive. Britain has one simple change, and they are grouping the two Lancasters, the Mark 1 and Mark 3, so it'll be easier to get through the bomber line. Japan is getting a very similar treatment compared to the US, with the grouping of the A6M2N and the N1K1, so basically the two floaty boys. The Ki-45 Tei has been moved to rank 1, probably based on the BR changes that have happened to it, and they are grouping the Ki-45 Otsu and the Ki-45 Hei. The Ki-45 Ko, though, is moved to rank 2 after the group of the Ki-45 Otsu and the Ki-45 Hei. I'm very happy to see this because for me, the Ko has always been the best out of the Ki-45s, just because its armament makes the most sense compared to the other ones, which rely on donkey guns, the 37s, which generally don't really work too well, so I'm happy to finally see this change. The D3A1 and B5N2 has switched places, obviously based on BR stuff that has happened, and they've finally grouped the D4Y2 and D4Y3 Co. I thought these would have already been grouped, but I suppose they just never were. I never noticed, so this is also a positive for people researching. France is actually getting some pretty serious changes, starting off with the MS406C1. It's been moved to rank 1 and also grouped with the 405C1, so this is a positive and a negative. Obviously, moving to rank 1 means that it loses the ability to be able to research effectively rank 3, but it also is grouped with the MS405, so it'll be easier to get through. The MD4522A and 2C have been grouped, thank God. This is probably the best grouping overall because both of those vehicles are weak when it comes to their BR brackets, very rough to be able to actually play. The NC223.3 is actually getting removed from the group and moved to rank 2. So this vehicle is actually increasing the amount that you have to research by, increasing another vehicle to the tree and not having it grouped. But it makes sense because the 223 is a 2.7 vehicle. It is the highest BR vehicle for the French at rank 1 and more similar to the rank 2s, which range from 2.0 to 3.0. It kind of reminds me of the H8K2. I have no idea why that thing is still rank 1. It's 3.3, which actually puts it on the higher echelon of Japanese rank 2, but it's still grouped with the H6K4, weirdly enough. The NC223 is in a similar position, and I'm wondering if that means we're going to see a change for the H8. They're also drastically changing how the lines work in the French tech tree. So instead of there only being 3 lines, which is what we have now with the tech tree itself, they're actually going to be splitting it into 4 lines. They're going to take the second research line and divide it into 2 separate lines. So the first one being the D500 and 501, the 693AB2, the 2 Potezes, the Hellcat, the King Cobra, the F6F5N, the Bearcat, and then the F84F and the F86K, the Sabre Dog. The other line that is going to be created is the V156F, the A35B, the SB2C5, the AD4, the F4U7, and then the F84G26RE, and then the F100D. From looking at these 2 lines, it looks like they're trying to make another fighter line, so they'll have 2 fighter lines overall, and then a secondary attacker line. That attacker line including many different attackers such as the A35B, the AD4, and the F4U7, which are much more useful in a ground pounding role than they are in a fighter role. The only one that doesn't really make sense on the right-hand line is the F-100D, but this could be for different reasons that I'm not so sure about. And then when it comes to the left-hand line, the only ones which don't really fit are the Potezes, but I suppose you could class them more as heavy fighters anyway. This will overall add some increased research to the tech tree, because if there are more lines in a tech tree, that means that you'll have to go down more of them, therefore research more vehicles in order to be able to get the different ranks. So since this is probably going to be coming out in the next week or so, make sure that if you are going to be affected by these changes, to get ahead of the curve so you can research what you want. Otherwise, you might be stuck in a place where you're not sure, what you want, or at the same time, the research is a little bit all over the place. Should be completely fine though. I'm splitting this part of the tech tree into more familiar lines. And then there's a bunch of ground vehicle research changes. These seem to be mainly based around the BR changes that we've had over the last little bit. So the USA, the M16 MGMC and the M15A1 CGMC are switching places, which, as we said, is probably based on the BR changes. And then for Germany, the Dickermax and the 8.8cm Flak 37 SFL is switching places too, once again, probably based on BR changes. And the USSR, the PT-76B is being moved to rank 3, so it's actually going to lose its research bonus when it comes to rank 5, which kind of sucks, but it's not a huge deal. It was at the bottom of rank 4 anyway, and it'll be a little bit easier to get into that rank 4 bracket with it, so I'm not too bothered about it too much. The SU-85 and SU-85M are being grouped and placed after the group of the SU-152 and ISU-152. This is probably once again because of BR changes. The SU-85s are much better than the 152s, so not too much of a surprise there. They do work very well. It also means because they're grouped, now you have to go through less vehicles, so should be quite nice. The 906 is being moved to rank 7. No, it isn't. The Object 906 is being moved to rank 5, and that, once again, will have a loss of research bonus, but the vast majority of the vehicles around that BR bracket are rank 6 anyway, so that pretty much means that you'll be able to still research them efficiently with the 906, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. It also means that now you can run it with the 7.7 lineup and get full research to your rank 6s instead of going for the rank 7s, which if you're running the IS-4 and the T-54 alongside of it, it may have been a little bit more rough. Britain is getting some odd changes when it comes to its ground vehicles. They're actually moving the place of the Carnarvon, and it's actually going to go after the Centurion Mark III, so it's going to move from one line to another. They're doing the same thing with the Conqueror, so they're moving the Conqueror after the Centurion Mark X. So they're massively bolstering that left-hand line, meaning that it's going to be a lot harder to get through, to be able to, get to the higher ranks such as the Challenger 2s and things. And it doesn't seem to really make it so, the lines are more balanced. Instead, it actually unbalances them. So unless we're going to get a bunch of vehicles in that BR, which we might do, because if you remember about a month ago, there was the big leak of the vehicles that will eventually come to the game, and one of them was a Vickers. So maybe they're planning to put a Vickers into the spot where the Carnarvon is or the Conqueror is, and then that makes the lines make a little bit more sense. If I'm looking from any other point of view, I don't really understand the change, because that to me was the heavy tank line, and that's where all the other heavy tanks are, but I'm guessing they're going for a different method or what the lines actually mean. The Conway is being moved to rank 4. This is completely fine since its BR is quite low for rank, I believe it's 5 that it was at before. And then also the Striker is getting moved to rank 5 and placed after the Swingfire. I have no idea why it wasn't there in the first place, but now it makes a lot more sense. The other thing also is now you have all of the different missile launchers there. The only thing that is the odd one out is the Warrior, but the Warrior is still an ATGM carrier. So they're just basically moving them around, making it a little bit harder to get the warrior, which definitely hurts it, but it's not the end of the world. The Stormer is also moving to rank 7. The reason for this is because of the BR increase. It makes the most sense for it to go up, so therefore it is. The Japanese are getting 2 very simple changes. The Tar-C is being moved to rank 1, and the Soki is moved to rank 2. So maybe they're going to be putting something in that gap, which is definitely required for Japan in that rank 3 area. So they will actually have something between the 2 BRs of 3.0 and 5.3, and maybe even 5.3 and 8.0, because there are huge gaps there for Japan, and they definitely need filling. They also have a section talking about a revision to the Mission Victory bonus reward, and they also give an example from a community member, Raldi92, and they go through it and talk about the different areas that they're discussing, basically talking about the fact that the individual believes that they're getting a lot less RP than they did before, and they actually bring out the equations which they use, which is very positive, because all of these are publicly available, by the way, so you can have a look at them if you want to, and therefore you can work out where your RP is going, where it's coming from, and all of these different things. And it shows, at least to me, the value of these things. It might be worth, working these things out instead of posting stuff and making opinionated claims on these things. Because generally when some stuff is done by equation, it's really easy to work out if your beliefs are massively off or way off, basically. Now, the important part is actually the revisions themselves. Now, remember, at this point, you can give your feedback. If you are interested in giving feedback, you can do it on the forums, and I would advise you to do so. With the example shown, it shows that they are looking at comments, they are seeing them and using them either as examples or trying their best to, sort out some people from the community and working out, the issues that they have. We saw on the last set of BR changes recently that they did a bunch of updates around community feedback, so this might be the same when it comes to this. So the revision for RP is as simple as this. We suggest revising the size of the reward for playing time per second. Instead of the current 0.6 RP per second in a lost mission, we would set 0.8 RP per second. And instead of 1.4 RP per second in a victorious mission, we would set 1.2 RP per second. Thus, the winning bonus during the game will be 50%, but the reward for lost missions would increase significantly by about 20%. So to basically break this down, you will get more RP for a loss and less RP for a win. So if you are one of those people who is massively on the winning percentage of things, so let's say you have a 60% win rate or higher, then this is going to negatively affect you. But on the other side of things, if you have individuals who are struggling with like a 40% or less, or maybe a 45% or less win rate, this is going to positively affect them because they're going to get more RP. If you're around a 50% win rate when you generally play, this is not going to affect you at all. The actual differences are exactly the same. Basically, they are increasing the loss from 0.6 to 0.8, so they're increasing it by 0.2 RP per second, and they are decreasing the victorious mission by 0.2. So they are the same width apart. They're just making it so if you lose, you get more RP than you would before, and if you win, you're getting slightly less. So they're just equaling out the different things. This means that there is still an incentive to be able to win in the form of 0.4 RP per second, which of course is 50% of the overall losing bonus and 50% of the thing. You're basically getting 150% instead of 100% if you want to see it like that. And now people who lose will still get a bit more RP. I think overall this is positive. Generally people who are winning most of their games don't need, that massive boost all the time. Even if they are carrying, it is nice to be rewarded, and in this new system, they are still rewarded by their time and their skills, but also it means that people who may be on the lower end, or people who maybe just be playing lineups which are not very meta and are trying to grind them out and they keep losing battles but doing well in them, will be positively affected by this. So I think this is personally very good. They are not just looking to change the RP that you get from a win and a loss, they're also looking to change the bonus rewards for Silver Lions. So they write, the bonus reward in Silver Lions for victory is simply calculated as 67% of all received rewards for actions and is calculated separately in the battle results. In a losing battle, this point is 0 SL. We also propose increasing all SL action rewards by 16%, but lowering the win bonus by 30%. In other words, if you earn 10k SL for your actions, then in a lost mission, this is a complete reward, but in a victorious mission, you will receive 16.7k SL. We propose a reward of 11.6k SL for the same actions, but reduce the final reward for the victorious mission to 15.1k SL. So they're doing a very similar thing compared to the RP that we just talked about before. So they are making it so people who lose get a little bit more and people who win get a little bit less. So bringing the focus away from the actual winning of the battle to your actions in the battle itself. And it's still there, you know, the win bonus, it's still quite large, which is good, but it's a little bit less impactful. And I think personally, this is a very positive thing. It means that your individual actions, even if you're not able to control or mind control your team to win, means that you will get more rewards out of the battle if you lose. And if you win, you're still getting rewarded with very positive SL income. The only thing that this may alter in the future is obviously the calculations they do around repair costs. We're going to have to see how this affects stuff like that going forward. Earlier we met your suggestions for additional rewarding of the best players of the losing team, but we are not in agreement with this for the following reasons. So basically what they're talking about here is, why don't we have like the 3 of the top players of the losing team get a winning bonus, and the 3 players of the winning team who are at the bottom get a losing bonus, this idea. I've personally advocated for this idea in the past. I still advocate it for it today. I think it's a decent idea, but let's see what they say. First, in different game modes, in different types of vehicles at different times of the day, teams have a different number of players, and it is unfair to reward a certain number of players, for example the top 3, because third place in a 4-player team is much easier than in a 16-player team, and rewarding a certain percentage of the best players by rounding in any direction is difficult for the players to understand and track. Second, we consider a bonus for winning the mission as a team bonus, a common achievement for all players in the team. And even if you are the best player on the losing team, you still lose. We also believe that this mechanic will encourage the best players on the losing team to try harder, as they won't risk a significant portion of their rewards. Additionally, the best players on the losing team will not always actually play well enough to deserve the extra bonus. So going through all of these 3 different points, you could, as we talked about, base it on a percentage, so 25% of a team, rounding up and down as they said. I think that would be the way to do it. I don't like the response that players would not understand this. I think it would be pretty simple, because at the end of the battle, they will see if they get the win bonus or not, and they'll be happy or they'll be sad. And it's not very hard to work out 25% of 16, 12, 8, or even 4. It's incredibly easy to do, weirdly enough. And then when it comes to the second point, I can understand the belief that, you know, it's a team bonus thing, but then the issue is that all of the rewards are based on individual actions, not really team ones, apart from assists and scouting, but everything else is individually based. The next one is the idea, if you are the best player of the losing team, you still lose. I mean, that's true. You know, there's no getting around that. that, and also the belief that this mechanic will encourage the best players on the losing team to try harder, as they won't risk a significant portion of their results. This is the main counterpoint, I would say, to the idea of giving people win bonuses who do really well. Sometimes at the end of the battle, they might just give up, even if the game is very close, because they know that they're going to get the win bonus anyway, and it's not going to affect them. So I think that is a very fair point, and that is the one to push forward with when it comes to these ideas. So the major addition to this update, which is probably coming in a week or even less, is the research parameters for aircraft. We talked about this at the start, and as you can see from this general table, across the board aircraft are decreasing in research cost. The only place where they are increasing is at rank 4, and they are increasing by very minimal amounts compared to the other areas. Rank 6 is the main area which is decreasing, with the US going down by nearly 2 million, and in total, as you can see, just massive amounts of RP are going to, or it's going to take you a lot less RP to be able to get to the higher levels. This is down to a few factors. Obviously, the massive reduction in a lot of vehicles. To give an example, the F-104A is going from 390,000 RP to 220,000, meaning a drop of 170,000. I'm not going to go through all of the separate vehicles. If you are interested in specific vehicles, make sure to check the links in the description. But the overall theme is that they are massively reducing the changes in research, which is all incredibly positive. So it'll be easier for people to get into rank 6, rank 7. The rank 5s are increasing quite a lot across the board as well, but once again, nowhere near the amount which is actually being reduced. So for me, this is a huge positive. This is very similar to what we saw with the ground back in the day, but now it's happening with aviation. So technically overall, it's going to be a little bit harder to get into rank 5, but then you're going to benefit way more from it because rank 6 and 7 are much easier to research through. So this is very positive. I'm very happy to see it. And the other thing that it also shows is something that we talked about a very long time ago, maybe like 3 years at this point. They're actually doing way more middling numbers. So instead of everything having, you know, like the 390 to the 170 to the 250 idea, now we're actually getting much more middling stuff. So we're getting 220,000, 270,000, 340,000, 130,000, 150,000. So there's now, instead of having a block of vehicles at 250 and then it's like 170 and then the 250s going into 390s, we are now going to see a gradual progression upwards as the research increases, as the rank increases. This is only positive because it means that vehicles before, which may not have been as desirable because of the fact that they were the same price as another vehicle which may be slightly better in somebody's mind, that that's BR, now there is a little bit of wiggle room to basically say, okay, so maybe you don't want to play that vehicle, but maybe it's a little bit cheaper now. Kind of like the example we gave way before of stuff like the Florak Rad and the Leopard 2A6. If you give a person a choice between the two, what to research first, I would say the vast majority of the time people are going to go for the Leopard 2A6 if they're the same price. But if you start muddling a little bit with the prices, which is what we see in aviation right now, now the question becomes a little bit more of a thinking one instead of a direct answer. So for me, that is very positive. When it comes to the research points required for ground vehicles, they're also overall going down, mainly at rank 7. There is massive decreases for every nation, apart from Britain, which is going up by 20,000, but that's because of the Stormer actually moving probably to rank 7. The other things as well is rank 5 is decreasing quite substantially, with a slight increase in rank 6, but not huge compared to the decreases in rank 5 and rank 7. and also rank 4 is slightly increasing, but not by a lot. Now, these changes are nowhere near the size of the aviation changes, but I would still say that they are decent changes and do benefit the player base a lot. Another thing to also note when it comes to research points cost, this is obviously for the overall vehicle, but what must be understood as well is as the research cost of a vehicle in total goes down, that means its modification cost also reduces, and also if it gets changed in rank, that actually affects it as well. So with all these vehicles decreasing, if they are decreasing, then they will also decrease in mod cost, and this will massively benefit the ground vehicles and aviation ones, especially the high tier ones, which modifications mean so much. In the SL cost department, it's a slightly different story. With aviation, it is once again massively decreasing, even with the culmination of the US over basically rank 4 and rank 7, it's going down by 9 million SL. With Germany going down by nearly 5 million, USSR nearly 7 million, Britain 7 million once again, meaning that it's going to be a lot cheaper to not just purchase these vehicles, but also the modifications are going to be a lot lower as well. This to me is very positive. This should be, how it is going forward. You can see the specific changes if you want to when it comes to the costs of these things. The crew training ones as well, a lot of them are reducing, which should make it a little bit easier to actually get into the vehicles themselves, and the purchase costs in general, a lot of them are decreasing as well. Not as much as the RP cost, but enough to make a difference. The main thing though is the modification costs for SL is vastly being reduced, alongside the research being vastly reduced as well. The ground vehicles, it's a slightly different story with a little bit of ups and a little bit of downs when it comes to modification SL cost. A lot of them are increasing, such as the US. The USSR is vastly decreasing because of the rank 6 costs, but you see general trends of different ranks decreasing and different ranks increasing. Hopefully this isn't too much of a burden on individuals. We're going to have to see how the new formula idea actually works, and if it benefits or doesn't benefit individuals going forward. In my opinion, it will benefit the majority, which is very positive, and hopefully with these changes they won't negatively affect people too much, especially since we're seeing reductions in other areas of the game. So I think it's safe to say, after having a look at the entirety of the economy changes that are coming probably in about a week, we can say that this is a massive overall positive for the vast majority of community members. This means that people will be able to get into high ranks quicker. It means that they won't have to pay as much SL to be able to spade their vehicles, which is very important to be able to be fully combat effective. And also, if they are on the weaker end of things with a less than 50% win rate, then the changes to the rewards in the form of RP and SL will also benefit them quite a lot. This to me is all very positive and really nice to see. It definitely arcs back to the ground changes update that we had, where they vastly reduced a lot of vehicles in RP, and it's lovely to see it happening to aviation now. It's also will be fun to speculate what is coming to the tech trees, especially with the split of the French. Maybe there'll be some new vehicles filling a few different holes. We'll have to see very soon with the dev blogs coming out. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.